whistleblowing systems. Thank you and hello again. In Delna, we conducted a small monitoring exercise to see how the internal whistleblowing systems are introduced in various bodies. We looked at this issue from the point of view of Section 5 of the law and asked questions to our respondents. We realize ourselves, and we always tell others, that to ensure that the internal whistleblowing systems are efficient is a precondition for activity of whistleblowers. Our survey was conducted in the form of structured interview, and I think you have to focus on the answers, not on the numbers. Of course, you will see the numbers as well. I would also like to note that due to the limited amount of time, I will show only main conclusions, but later we will publish this report on our homepage. Of course, there is a disclaimer that we will not discuss the results, but we will just take this into notice so that we can work on that later and incorporate that later. Of course, we approached companies and bodies where we knew that the system is already working to receive quality answers about their experiences. So it is no wonder that on the 1st of May 2019, they already had the system and one body introduced it slightly later. And all the colleagues who shared their experience clearly knew why these systems are needed. It is positive that almost all of them responded that they even before had some sort of internal reporting systems like homepage or via an email or anonymous phone or whatever, and they basically improved and continued with the existing system. We concluded that there are slight differences between the public and private sector. That also pertains to approaches to such systems, and companies indicated that they created these systems because it was recommended by a shareholder or one of the owners who is not from Latvia. So there was an external motivating factor, or the management board had a focus on good management and wanted to improve internal communication with employees and also with customers. All of our respondents indicated that they have used their own resources and capacities to introduce these systems, but they also indicated that the support from the state chancellery, like seminars, guidelines, and so on, was very useful, and the same applies to Delna. And here is one of the most important slides of my presentation. And here you can see information from various bodies with regard to the efficiency of internal whistleblowing systems. Representatives of the public sector indicated, yes, the system works because we receive these reports. No additional questions are received from employees, so they assume the system is working well, everything is clear. The respondents also indicated that the employees believe that the reports are received, they're reviewed anonymously. The private sector provided more detailed answers, and they focused more on raising awareness and engagement of their employees. The private sector believes that the system is efficient because the employees actively communicate with the management, with the designated contact persons, even beyond the system or the channels, but But in the whistleblowing system, in the direct channels, they do not receive so many reports, but they are sure that employees would use them if needed. So we can conclude that employees use various means to inform about various violations or deficiencies. Not always it will be the official whistleblowing system, and it is of course welcomed. The respondents also indicated that there is a high degree of trust and loyalty. People do trust and they rely on the respective bodies to make sure that the reports are received and reviewed. Several answers also spoke about the competence, authority of the leaders and the support of the leaders to the whistleblowing system is very important. It was also indicated that so far no problems have occurred with the whistleblowing system. And we also asked to some colleagues, why do you believe that the system maybe is not sufficient? I think these are quite logical answers if you work with this topic. Basically, there are too few reports, there are no data to assess the efficiency. And I think this is quite well aligned with the previous conclusions. They indicated that the employees maybe do not prefer the whistleblowing channels because they have other well-functioning channels to communicate with the leadership, with the management, and they can use to communicate possible violations. Here we already had uh, pre-prepared options that the respondents could choose. And as we see, the respondents found it important that the enforcement of the law is important, but by having a whistleblowing system, they contribute to mitigating the risk of corruption, conflict of interest, fraud, and so on. As I already mentioned before, in many answers, respondents indicated that employee awareness training is very, very important, and all bodies confirmed that the employees have been informed when the system was introduced. New employees are informed when they are hired, and so the approach can vary. It can be a training, it can be just a folder with documents that is given to people to read. The respondents also admitted that sometimes employees may not have a sufficient understanding of the operation of the internal whistleblowing system or its relevance. And I will discuss that in more detail in the next slide. But in general, regular meetings with employees or communication via the direct supervisor, or maybe quarterly or semi-annually meetings with leadership is one of the fora where whistleblowing is discussed. More about training. There are bodies and there are companies, more companies than bodies, that have regular training for each and every employee, maybe once per quarter or once per year, or these issues are incorporated in other trainings. There have been separate trainings, individual trainings for the heads of structural units, because we already heard that the role of managers is very important to facilitate whistleblowing. There's also training for the new employees once they are onboarded. And there were several respondents who indicated that they are still planning several training sessions and also exchange of experience or trips or events and other events during which they would speak not so much about formal documents but about the nature and meaningfulness of various measures. But COVID, of course, has affected these plans. What we can conclude from the initial analysis: yes, we know the number of reports that we have received via whistleblowing systems is small. That's why it's not always possible to perform comprehensive assessments. We also identified not always data indicated in the reports is kept safe. We also concluded that the managers' awareness of these issues should be improved because that would facilitate the use of the internal whistleblowing system, and not these trainings are not regular in all or targeted in all respondent bodies or organizations. Yesterday, we focused on the law and the transposition of the regulation. Uh, and with regards to that, our respondents came forward with some proposals and recommendations. They believe that the law should be improved by more specifically laying down specific penalties, including criminal penalties. You have also faced this issue that if a report is not found to be a whistleblowing report, what to do next? So they propose that this procedure should also be explained, and also there should be an explanation about when employment relationship is established with a company or an organization, whether it's when we send CV or when is it. Our recommendations, we believe that targeted efforts should be invested to inform the employees about internal whistleblowing systems, and that also applies to the management. And by focusing on systematic approach to employee training, we could facilitate the performance of the internal whistleblowing systems. This was a very brief review of our exercise to understand how the internal uh, whistleblowing systems work and in various bodies and organizations, but we will publish this on our homepage, so please follow.
Thank you very much, Ines, for this outlook. Just short question. Have you planned a training for the contact persons of whistleblowers? I believe this question has to be asked to the Chancellery of Latvia because they are purposefully working with, collaborating with the contact persons, with the public sector, special training for private sector where we could train the contact persons. We actually don't have organized, and now due to the COVID situation, we are not organizing training, but this is on our agenda, and most probably after the new year, in the new year, we will organize training for the private sector colleagues. Thank you very much. And with